Hey everyone, we're live in Hong Kong. Say hello, Shelley.
Hello, Shelley.
Thanks, Shelley. It's oppressively hot, which is why you'll see me for the first time without a suit jacket on. So I think today we're going to give you some updates of something we've learned about the Hong Kong protests and what might be happening in the next couple of days, some updates on some other important China news, and then we'll take some questions. So why don't you lead us off, Shelley?
Okay, so the latest is that after the Sunday protests, the protesters basically came up with a list of several demands for the Hong Kong government and gave them an ultimatum for Thursday by 5 p.m. If they don't meet the demands, then they're basically threatening to start protesting again on Friday.
Yeah. Did they use the term, there will be action? I remember hearing that, which is nice and vague. But so the demands are, I think it kind of depends a bit on who you ask. But
There's several groups. So some groups have 4 demands, and other groups have 5. And the 5th demand is that Carrie Lam resigns.
Yeah.
So some of them are calling for that, and some aren't.
Yeah, the other things are to completely retract the extradition bill. Carrie Lam has sort of been saying it's just kind of postponed, and if it doesn't get voted on by sometime next year, then maybe it will be gone, which is not very satisfying to people.
Yeah, we can talk about that when we talk about her press conference later.
Yeah, and also people want her to make an official statement saying that the protesters are not rioters, because there's a lot of concern that, like the students from the Umbrella Movement, a year from now, we could see a lot of the teachers who were involved or other students getting arrested and spending lengthy jail terms for being rioters.
And then they also want an independent investigation of the police's actions during the protests on June 12th, where they fired about 150 tear gas canisters into the crowd.
Yeah, if it was excessive violence.
So they want an independent kind of audit of the police department to see if that was appropriate or inappropriate use of force. And then the 4th one is I currently forget right now, so why don't you say something, Chris?
Let's see, how many have we done? We said no protesters, retract the extradition bill. There was a thing about Carrie Lam, not being labeled, and her stepping down, the independent investigation.
Did we say drop
4.
the charges?
Drop the charges.
Yeah, that's the 4th one. That there have been 5 people arrested for rioting or inciting riots, as well as 12 other people arrested for some other things. I think there's a total of 30-some people arrested, including for things like loitering.
Dangerous criminals. They must be locked away forever.
So one of the demands by the protesters is that these charges must all be dropped because, again, like Chris was saying before, the concern is that this could come back. Hong Kong does not have a statute of limitations. So, years later, now we're still seeing people being charged for things that happened 5 years ago during the Umbrella Movement. Yeah,
we just yesterday spoke to Joshua Wong, who was in jail, has been in jail multiple times for his role in the Umbrella Movement. We also interviewed Bajio Liang, who was also an Umbrella leader, who was a democratically elected legislator, who was disqualified for changing the oath to talk about Hong Kong democracy. And then he was thrown in jail, out of jail. So, yeah, definitely people are ending up in jail for things that most of us in the West would not call actual crimes. So,
taste of loitering.
Oh, gosh, I hate loiterers. If there's one thing I hate. But so what you were saying about the people arrested, that kind of leads into the next topic about the...
Police?
I was going to say the hospital thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so on Wednesday night, when things kind of got a little... When things got violent, there was one protester, a teacher, who got shot in the face with a rubber bullet, and he went to the hospital. And then while he was in the hospital, he got arrested.
Yeah, there were several people who got arrested in the hospital, so that's made protesters kind of afraid to go to the hospitals for any injuries.
That's a good thing to happen.
So there are kind of medic tents out here in the protest site that they've stocked with first aid kits and stuff like that because people are afraid to go to the hospitals now. And then a lawmaker kind of came out the other day and blew the whistle, and what he said was the fact that the hospital authority was leaking information to the police, where there is a back door essentially in the electronic health record system. that anybody could kind of get in and access patient records without having to log in. So this became a huge scandal that the hospital authority had to like call a press conference at like 11 p.m. to talk about whether or not this was true. And shockingly, they said it was not. But that's,
But really, if you're looking on the bright side, in 2047, that's when the one country, two system thing ends, and it just becomes one country, one system. And I feel like if you hit that deadline and it was all of a sudden one system, it's too much of a shock. It's nice that they're kind of easing the people of Hong Kong into this. You go to the hospital, you can be detained by police. It's really thoughtful of them. And actually, you can see behind us one of the first aid tents. I don't know if Matt can get that in the camera, but man, in those tents, I bet those people are hot.
It is in the 90s today.
It's a swamp.
Yeah. I mean, it's been raining on and off, which is good and also terrible.
Oh, should we talk about Carrie Lam's press conference, or did you want to talk about the police press conference?
Yeah, let's talk about the police press conference first, because that happened first, and you kind of need to know what they said for Carrie to make sense. So the police commissioner came out and gave a press conference Tuesday night in which they kind of tried to back off calling the protest riots, because that's one of the things that the protesters were very upset about. And so they said, okay, not everybody was rioting.
Only some people.
Yeah, so they were like, we've only charged 5 people with rioting. Mm-hmm. So if you were there and you weren't rioting, you don't have to worry about being charged. You're not going to get charged. And then they also said that they used an appropriate level of force.
So basically, they did not back down from using 150 cans of tear gas. And remember, for comparison, in the entire umbrella movement, which lasted like 79 days.
Yeah, but although they stopped using tear gas.
They stopped using tear gas
pretty quickly. So, but it was in the first few weeks, they only used 87 canisters.
Versus 150 cans in one night.
So they...
which was appropriate.
Yeah, well, the police commissioner said it was appropriate, but also because he said there were only 5 rioters, people started making these internet memes. About who could these 5 rioters be that would require 150 canisters of tear gas? So
I posted one of the memes on the China Uncensored Instagram, and you see swarms of police and tear gas everywhere, and in the center, the 5 Power Rangers.
I like that one. I also like the Sailor Moon one.
Oh yeah, of course you like the Sailor Moon.
Yes, of course I do like.
I think there was a Ronin Warriors one as well.
Yes, there was definitely that. So there are all these kind of jokes about how there could be these rioters that would need all this tear gas. So I have to say that Hong Kongers, their meme game is really on point.
Yeah, blistering burns. Really, they're great. So Carrie Lam now?
Yeah, let's talk about Carrie Lam.
So Carrie Lam gave a press conference, and she was all dressed up very nice, and then the mean kids spilled a bucket of pig's blood on her, and she got really upset, and then Oh, sorry, that's the movie Carrie, not Carrie Lam's press conference.
Again.
And dehydrated.
So Carrie Lam, the chief executive of Hong Kong, who, when we were here 5 years ago for the Umbrella Movement, the chief executive was C.Y. Leung, and I did not think that they could find another chief executive that was as hated as this guy, because there were, posters of him with devil horns, and remember some of that stuff that we saw during
pictures of his face on the ground that you're supposed to step on and jump on.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah. So we're
and they've done all that for Carrie Lam too.
Yeah, so now we're okay, maybe people hate Carrie Lam more than they hate C.Y. Leung, which was something.
I definitely think after yesterday's press conference they probably do.
Okay, so the context of this press conference was that after Sunday's 2 million person march, the government released a statement in which Carrie Lam apologized in the third person.
So she was the chief executive apologizes for.
Yes. So then Wednesday,
after 2 million people come out and protest, you kind of expect the leader of the government to say something and address the fact that 2/7 of the city was up in arms and on the streets protesting you specifically.
So then on, Tuesday? What day is it today?
Today's Wednesday. It was yesterday.
Yes, it was yesterday. So on Tuesday afternoon, she had another press conference, and ahead of the press conference, before she got there, so many media went around to the podium and started taking photos of the boxes of tissues that were under the podium because she's got a reputation for crying now. And so
crocodile tears.
So there was they had a lot of fun with that. And then when she came on, she made a very apparently sincere apology for, and she's like, I need to take more personal responsibility, whatever. But very quickly it became apparent that she was not going to resign because she was like, well, I have 3 more years left of my term and now we have to get down to work, that kind of language. And then after her, she kind of tried to clarify that the bill is basically dead because she was like, we won't bring it back up while the people are divided over it. And if it doesn't get brought back up by next July, the end of the current legislative session, then it's effectively done.
Which you can see why that might not be satisfying to some people.
But it's kind of like a procedural way to end it. And then the questions at the the press were really pretty pointed.
They were on her.
And basically you had media after media asking why she wasn't responding to the protesters' demands. For the one about the independent police investigation, she was like, oh, we have mechanisms already for investigating the police, so we should use those mechanisms. We don't need one.
You found out what that actually meant,
yeah,
right?
So it turns out that the mechanism she was talking about was actually there is an independent body, but they cannot investigate the police. They can only they're a watchdog to make sure the police's own internal investigations about themselves are not corrupt, but they have no power, basically.
So if the police investigate themselves, this organization will make sure they're doing it right. But it seems like there's not going to be a real... Currently, there's not going to be a real... what's the word I'm looking for? There's not going to be a real investigation into whether the police used appropriate levels of force. That night, they used 150 cans of tear gas against teachers and students.
And what was also funny was that, she was talking about how, there's this mechanism where you can complain about the police and please use it. And then there was a reporter who posted it, the fact that the website had gone down as she was saying this. So it was showing a 404 error message. So that wasn't satisfying. And then she was obviously not going to resign. So that was another demand that wasn't met. She kind of, about the riots thing, she was like, my views are aligned with the police commissioner. I trust the police. They were on the ground, whatever they say. So it was kind of the same partial retraction where they're yeah,
there were some people who were rioters, but if you were just there protesting, then you have nothing to worry about.
And then they didn't say anything about dropping any charges against people.
Yeah.
So
well, also the big thing was she refused to use the language retract the bill.
Well, media after media kept asking her if she would say that she would withdraw or retract the bill, and she kept kind of going back to this answer where she was procedurally it's done, it's dead. She didn't use those words, but she was I've already explained this many times that the bill can't go forward, if people don't want it to. And then it became very apparent that she was not allowed to use the word retract.
Yeah, probably somebody in Beijing said, do not use that language.
And this is the weird thing about watching a press conference from Carrie Lam is that she's not really just doing this press conference for the Hong Kong public or the media. She's also has to watch her language and relate to what she can say, what the Hong Kong liaison office, which is Beijing, has told her that she can do. So she's kind of performing for Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party.
It's really hard to be a middle manager in an authoritarian regime.
I think that's especially when you're in charge of the second system that is not really working out.
No.
Yeah, so that's the thing with this. It became kind of comical to watch her say the same thing over and over again, and the different reporters asking her the same questions over and over again to try to force her, and she obviously couldn't do it.
You can check out resumed.
Yeah.
So Matt's camera has cooled down a bit.
It's not coming up.
Well, I'll talk to this again.
Resumed.
So this possibly has resumed. Maybe you just need to reload your thing. Matt is walking backwards. This could be very funny for all of us, except Matt. So I'm just going to kind of walk and talk.
Okay,
And
we're
oh,
back.
it is back. It is
great.
back. So in case what I just said didn't come up, Matt's camera has cooled down, and we're walking to a shadier place. Matt is walking backwards, and I think if he falls down, it'll be very funny for everyone. Except for Matt. So where are we? Carrie Lam. Oh, yeah, it was kind of a disaster. Check it out on Hong Kong Free Press.
Oh, yeah. So there was a question from the CBS News reporter that was, asking Carrie Lam, you have the reputation of being a habitual liar. And your critics, not me, but your critics have said that you have to cry now to be believed, and asked her to respond to that. So that was pretty brutal.
She did not cry in response to that. This woman's tough as nails. But so is that? I think that's basically the end of the what we want to say about the Carrie Lam. I think.
Yep.
So Carrie Lam's office is right there. Do you think she'll let us in to continue the live stream?
Oh gosh. Under these lovely trees.
Sure.
Okay. Where the shade
hang out
is.
in the shade here.
Okay. Do we have any other updates on Hong Kong?
Oh, right now what's happening is the Hong Kong legislature, which is called LegCo, they are in session for the first time since last Tuesday because they had to shut down because there were protests outside the government offices for the entire last week. So they've just resumed today, and what's happening behind us right now is that the pro-democracy lawmakers are asking pointed questions about the police violence and all that kind of stuff. So that should be fun.
So the main thing is we're waiting to see what's going to happen Thursday, if the demands are going to be met in any satisfying way, and if not, what protesters are going to do. I mean, I think it would be incredible to see the same numbers of people out over the weekend that we saw over the past 2 weekends, but
I don't know.
Nobody really knows what's happening.
I don't know if that will happen, honestly.
Yeah. Should we move on to other topics?
Yes.
Okay.
Some people are typing about this already, actually. So,
Which?
The organ harvesting.
Oh, okay. So the other thing we want to talk about, this is huge China news that we haven't really had a chance to cover while we've been here. But we have talked about it on the show a little bit over the past couple of months. But in the UK, there was an independent tribunal being led by the guy who was Sir Geoffrey Nice, or Nice. I think it's nice.
It's nice.
It's very nice. Thank you, Shelley. And so he was the guy who was in charge of the war crime tribunal against Slobodan Milosevic. From former Yugoslavia. And so he's overseeing this tribunal looking into the allegations that the Chinese Communist Party has been harvesting organs from prisoners of conscience. I'm sure if you're watching China Uncensored, you've seen us cover that a lot. And basically they said, yes, that's definitely happening. They said as many as 90,000 transplant operations a year are being carried out, and that's way higher than the official line, which was 10,000. I think they now officially say they do about 20,000 transplants a year. But so this is, nowhere near the numbers of what's actually happening.
And what's been interesting about the tribunal coming to a verdict is now we've seen, more mainstream media doing
Finally
stories
talking
about it.
about
Like
this.
I saw something in Fortune magazine and AFP. In
Even the South China Morning Post, which is kind of surprising since they have become slightly more pro-Beijing over the years.
So this was something that now you see people kind of starting to talk about it as oh, is this happening? And still there's a lot of disbelief, oh, it's too terrible to think that this is actually happening, or people have been bringing it. There have been rumors for years, but is there evidence? And there is evidence. There's a lot of evidence. People are just not looking at the evidence.
Yeah, the Communist Party has been pretty successful since the main victims of this seem to be Falun Gong practitioners. The Communist Party main propaganda line of calling them a cult or China's version of Scientology has been pretty effective, in the same way calling Uyghurs Muslim extremists or terrorists kind of works. People have these notions about groups, and then it suddenly puts the persecuted group on the defensive instead of the real issue of the horrible crimes against humanity that are happening.
And one thing that the tribunal said was that Falun Gong is definitely the main victim right now of organ harvesting, but the signs are not good for the Uyghurs. With the buildup of the the concentration camps, with like the kind of buildup of like the system that can take the hospital system that could take people and like transporting people now from Xinjiang to different areas of China. Like that's all signs that like the Uyghurs could be the next like huge victim of this.
Yeah.
I mean, they already are, but even bigger than they were. So.
Yeah. And what you're seeing now is already a lot of countries have sort of banned organ tourism to China. Israel was one of the first countries that did that, but I saw Belgium has done that now.
It was actually really interesting. Last night we went to an event that was at the Hong Kong Economic Club that was talking about the extradition bill and how that would affect Hong Kong's economy and people's like personal financial situations. And at the event, I was talking to a Hong Kong businesswoman, and she was like, "Oh yeah, people in Hong Kong, they know that if you need a kidney or something, you can go to mainland China, and like just kind of don't ask questions."
Yeah.
So that's kind of something that she said was like, "Yeah, people know about this." And she was very surprised when I was saying that people outside this area don't really know about it. And also, like, that most people in, I'd say, most Western countries would not see the Chinese Communist Party as a threat. And her jaw dropped because they are so in it here in Hong Kong that, like, she couldn't believe that people in other countries weren't seeing the danger.
Yeah. For a little bit of levity, a little tiny ladybug has landed on Matt's finger as he's holding the camera. It's precious. I feel uplifted.
That's a baby ladybug.
It's like a baby ladybug.
Seen one that small.
I know, it's wonderful. Oh, can we get a shot of that? Hello, little friend. He's coming out to support the protesters. But yeah, so the tribunal was also saying this has been going on for 20 years and has been largely ignored by, well, the British government was specifically singled out. But so this is definitely a big problem. Actually, I find it's very interesting that so much is happening all at once. There's the massive protests in Hong Kong. There's the tribunal coming out about organ harvesting. And this week, Trump and Xi are going to be meeting at the G20 summit. So a lot is happening all at once.
Next week. I think it's the 28th or something like that.
Oh, I thought it was the 20th.
No.
Okay. Well, it's happening soon. So all of this is happening at the same time.
Right now, Xi Jinping is in North Korea.
Oh, yeah. He was invited to North Korea. First time, I believe.
No, first state visit.
Yeah.
So that's the first time they've used that term. Yep.
It can't be as good as his recent trip to, he visited Putin and they met in Tajikistan for Xi Jinping's birthday. And Putin gifted him a box of what Xi Jinping had described as the best ice cream he had ever had.
It's the best ice cream in the world is Russian, really?
Is it Russian? I don't know.
That was my assumption. It didn't specify which brand.
Anyways, I'm going to look into this ice cream and buy myself some, and maybe they'll be a sponsor of the show. All right. Anyways, maybe we should answer some questions now. That's the update from here in Hong Kong. Now let's go answer some of your questions. I'm just going to set down my stuff. Okay.
Do you want to remind people about the fan meetup?
Oh, yeah. If you're watching and if you're in Hong Kong or are fine taking a very long flight, tonight at 7 p.m. Hong Kong time, we are going to be doing a China Uncensored fan meetup. It's actually going to be over there where we initially were, where it got way too hot. But, yeah, come on down. Somebody's saying... Oh, did you leave your bag over there, Shelley?
I did, yeah.
All right, Shelley will be right back. The questions will be mine now.
How about this? We're gonna do this. Chris and I answer questions.
I almost had
For a second.
full power over this. All right, so Kwang Chung donated $300. Wow, thank you. And says, keep up the good work. Are we waiting here? What's happening?
I'm setting this up here.
Oh, Matt has put the thing on a trash can. So now it really is just me. So if you want to ask me, questions about Matt and Shelley that, that they shouldn't be around for, now's the time because I can talk about them behind their back. As soon as Matt is done adjusting the camera and walks away. And okay. So love from Vietnam from Tonto Goldstein 81. Donate $5. Thanks. Love from Vietnam. Stay strong and safe. The world needs to unite against China. Definitely. I think it's happening. Actually, what's going to happen, I think, is someday the people of China are going to unite with the world against the Chinese Communist Party. Let's see. Andreas Belger from Europe donated €5. From Europe, we should not look with blind eyes to China. Absolutely. Let's see. What else? Oh gosh. This is the first time I've actually been able to hold this and work on it. Okay. What?
I can do a little bit here if you like.
No, I think I got this. So, Catholic Commissar donated $5. Thank you. Do you think Hong Kong will gain her liberty or be crushed by the Red Hordes? I think ultimately what's going to have to happen is the Chinese Communist Party is going to have to fall, because they won't ever allow Hong Kong to have liberty and independence as long as they're in charge. Matt, do you want to answer some questions since you're here? Matt's been working super hard and has not gotten the glory Shelley and I have.
Let's see. Roy Camizono contributed 2,400 yen, which is it's about $24.
Hey, thank you.
Stay safe, guys. It's a shame YouTube is demonetizing your channel. We've talked about this before, but our channel is it's very difficult to get advertisers.
Next to impossible.
When you are openly critical of the Chinese Communist Party, and as most of you know. So then on top of that, YouTube has, with their very vague guidelines, has considered a lot of our videos too controversial for advertisers. And so they give us...
no idea why.
Yeah, they say limited or no ads. So sometimes there's no ads, sometimes it's maybe 5% of the ads that we normally get. But keep in mind that our revenue is generated from these ads, and it's these ads that enable us to do trips like this to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And so we really wouldn't be here without the support from you guys contributing to us through Super Chat or contributing to us through our Patreon page, just patreon.com/China Uncensored.
And actually, since you mentioned the business, like how difficult it is to get advertisers, I really wonder if, like, with the exposure of the organ harvesting stuff, if it's going to become impossible for Western companies to do business in China. Shelley, how about you get in the middle, and then we can all answer questions. Did you get your bag?
Can I just say something about the high level of social trust in Hong Kong? Because what happened was I left my bag over there accidentally all the way over where we were, and then nobody touched it, and this guy came over and asked me if it was my bag. So that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing he connected, because it's kind of a walk. It's amazing he connected that bag with you.
I don't know, maybe he'd seen us. But yeah, like that reminds me of, like, you know, the students who are protesting, studying for their tests.
Organizing, recycling.
There was like that clip you posted of, like, there was like a trash can fire that broke out.
Oh yeah.
And then they ran over to put it out.
To put out the trash can fire. Because that's what Hong Kong protesters
These
do.
are dangerous rioters. Let's see.
I don't know where you guys were.
Yeah, at the 21.
Yeah.
Okay. 20. All right.
Graciela Chung contributed $20. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A Korean name that I can't read donated 5,000 won. Thank you.
Thank you.
We kind of want to go to South Korea at some point this year.
Should we go to South Korea?
Yeah, why not?
Does Macau have any extradition laws coming up?
I actually don't know what the state of the extradition law there is. I mean, I know a lot of controversial laws that were killed in Hong Kong, like Article 23, which was a national security law, was passed in Macau. So Macau is much more...
They don't have to take people to China. They can just do it local.
Well, you know, yeah. Macau's a gamble. Always was.
Yeah, no, but I think the thing about Macau is that Macau's economy is based largely on the gambling industry. And so it's much easier for Macau to acquiesce to the demands of the Chinese central government. Because if they don't acquiesce, then they don't get the mainland gamblers. The difference with Hong Kong is that the economy here in Hong Kong has a lot more to do with business, and business requires rule of law to operate. And the extradition bill is a direct threat to the rule of law in Hong Kong, and that's what makes it a direct threat to the business community. And it's that connection that people in Hong Kong are seeing, and I think it just doesn't seem that relevant for most people in Macau. That's unfortunate, I suppose, because the Macanese people are then living under a lot more threats from Beijing. On the plus side, though, they do have amazing egg tarts.
That's true.
All right, let's move on here.
We answered that.
Oh, you did this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
That one. Ooh, another Korean name I can't read donated 50,000 won. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, you guys are so generous. I just want to say again, thank you so much.
Especially
for all
because
this.
we've had to extend our trip to be here. This is a huge help to us.
Yeah.
This and all of the 50 Cent Army people, the China Uncensored 50-cent army, who contribute on Patreon.
I'm just going to give you this here for a second.
I've got it. So 39 Spoons gave $49.99. Thank you. You guys are amazing. Wish Shelley clicked it off because she doesn't care about you the way I do.
I thought you could read faster. That's what happened.
It's so much reflection. We wish we could be there. I wish you could be here too. Joy Flips donated $20. Thank you. Sam Gamera donated $5. Says, keep up the awesome work. Someone needs to do. Shelley just clicks away because
someone needs to do it. Okay.
She doesn't care about you the way I do.
Okay. Nixie donated $10 Canadian and asked, any plans to come to Vancouver, Canada? What is the state of influence by the CCP here? It's not great.
Yeah, I've never actually been to Canada. I wouldn't mind going.
You've never been
You've never
I've
been
never
to
been
Canada?
to Canada. No.
Wow, okay.
Really?
No, you guys keep me too busy going all over Southeast Asia.
I know, it's like last year we go to Australia, New Zealand, Norway, Taiwan,
Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. That seems like a nothing trip now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
and yet you haven't ever been to Canada.
Actually, where we want to go this year also is Dharamsala, if we can.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
Yeah, we
Yes.
just live on the
I
road
can feel
now.
the jet lag.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
because you interviewed Dorjeet Seton, who was a member of parliament for the
yeah.
Tibetan
And
government
later
in
a student
exile.
for Free Tibet.
Yeah, and so he's like, yeah, you guys should come to Dharamsala and meet with people here and see what's going on. And I was thinking, that sounds amazing. And Chris was thinking,
What? I'm trying to read.
that's basically what happened.
Chris was thinking that sounds incredibly tiring.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. Okay,
Go
so
for it.
are we going to come to Vancouver? Yeah, that's Canada's on our list. Two Clat donated
2K latte.
2K latte. Okay. All right.
That's a lot of lattes.
$34.99 Canadian. Thank you.
Thank you. Laserbots 678 donated $20. Thank you. I like the name.
Hersectinal donated $20. Thank you. And asked, are people worried about CCP undercover agents inciting violence to justify a police crackdown?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
that's one of the rumors that's going around.
Yeah,
In fact, there's also been rumors that some of the more violent policemen on Wednesday night were actually either trained in mainland China or might have secretly been PLA soldiers disguised as police.
Yeah, I think that's because some of them didn't show their badge numbers, but then we talked to a former police officer who said that for some of the elite kind of units, like there's this unit called the Raptors, which is kind of like a special force within the Hong Kong police, that they don't necessarily have to show their badge numbers.
But I think part of the theory behind that was that they were like shooting for the head with the rubber bullet guns, which is you're really not supposed to do.
I mean, like what they say is they weren't shooting for the head.
It's just
that
accidentally.
like,
Bad luck.
you know.
Bad luck.
And what this police officer had said was that getting hit with a rubber bullet is roughly the same as getting hit with a baton. But, like, that was kind of the justification for it. But getting hit in the face with a baton
In the
is
eye.
like that is still extremely damaging. Like, that's not a thing you just immediately recover from. You can also get a concussion that has permanent brain damage.
Yeah.
Like, these are very serious weapons.
And also, like, was there any justification to use it?
Well, that's a totally different question.
I think that, I heard a little bit about what some of the pro-Beijing camp legislators were saying this morning, and they were like, oh, well, the people were pushing the barriers, they were kind of trying to get past the barrier, like, so kind of trying to justify the use of things like the bullets and the beanbag guns and all that stuff. Ed Flynn donated $10 Canadian.
Thank you.
Lots of love for Canada today, thank you. And asked, can you guys ride the Ferris wheel together during a broadcast?
Broadcast?
Oh, no, because the Ferris wheel is right behind. It's kind of like, it's like the Hong Kong Eye. I don't know what they call it.
I don't think we've ever been on that. Could we ride it during a broadcast?
When are we going to have time to do that?
Well, we could do it live from there. I might get nauseous.
I think that's what the question is.
Oh.
That can we do a live from the broadcast from the Ferris wheel?
That's
We'll think about
yeah.
it. All right. Rum Runner donated $25. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Between the trade war, the Hong Kong protests, and now the organ harvesting investigation and the situation with the Uyghurs getting press, Is this the worst year the CCP has had since 1989, or is it just me? It
I don't know.
seems...
Are you causing all of these problems for the CCP?
Oh, yeah, it might just be you. No, I think this really is like... I can't remember a year of more existential crises.
It's
for the
bad.
economy.
Also, the trade war is
Trade war's killing
damaging
it.
the economy pretty badly. Like some of
Yeah.
the newer numbers that are coming out show that it's working.
Yeah, so it's a bad year.
It's a bad year also because this is 2019 it's like all the anniversaries of all the things are on this year. So
Oh,
you've got
yeah.
like March is the 60th anniversary of the Tibet Uprising from 1959. It's the 30th anniversary of the 1989 Tiananmen Massacre, the 20th anniversary of the launch of the persecution of Falun Gong. It's 10 years since
The first-
the
the
first
Big crackdown.
big crackdown in Xinjiang.
So, I mean, it's also the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China.
Dun dun dun.
So there's a lot. Like, I think actually somebody tweeted out Macro Polo had come up with a list of all of the anniversaries this year, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
It's not a good year.
And the problem with these anniversaries is that people want to recognize them. And if only people could just keep their mouths shut and be more harmonious.
That's how you run the show, isn't it?
That has been how they've been trying to run the show.
Okay, so BC Yume donated 25 Hong Kong dollars, and thank you, and asked any Hong Kong fan meetup after tonight. I don't think a lot of people have time to join on a weekday.
Oh, that's unfortunate. It really depends on the protesters and what happens. Like, we might be very, very busy for the next couple of days. So right now we can't really say one way or the other about any more.
Yeah, when we
fan
came,
meetups.
we didn't want to promise any fan meetups because that it's not a normal trip for us. And the fact normally we would plan out this trip to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
We'd kind of try to find a venue that's not outside in a park in 100% humidity.
Yep.
And we'd try to kind of make things a little better for you guys, but we just didn't really know if we would have time to do a fan meetup, and it was only yesterday that we decided to kind of stay on a few more days to see what happens the end of this week. And we were like, well, Wednesday night seems like the
We're in
only
a
real
little
time
bit of
right
a
now.
lull right now,
Yeah,
yeah.
because it's before the protests really start up again, and so if things get really heated again on Thursday and Friday, we can't really promise.
We can't say.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for updates, but we can't say.
I mean, we do have to say that we really love meeting you guys. If you see us around,
Yes,
please say hi.
definitely.
And we really do like the chance to kind of talk to fans. And so if we can do one, we do want to, but we don't know at this point.
Okay. How long is maybe we should get to wrapping up? I don't know what that is. Do you recognize that symbol?
I have no idea what currency.
Wow. Martha Muthal donated us $500 of some unknown currency that neither Matt, Shelley, or I know.
Is it rupees? I don't know.
Anyways, thank you. I'll look forward to looking at that up. KO888 gave $14.99 Australian. Thank you. And Chao Lin Tinya donated 118 Hong Kong dollars. Thank you. We love your channel. I'm Taiwanese person, lives in Hong Kong. Thanks for supporting Hong Kong and Taiwan. Absolutely. And thanks for being here. Oh, another of that mystery currency, Joel.
Indian rupees.
Indian rupees?
That was my guess.
Okay.
But we're very
Yeah, that was my guess, too.
uncultured
That was my guess,
Americans.
too.
We're sorry.
Are the elites in Hong Kong
You just have to
against
go
the
to
bill?
India.
Yeah.
So the elites in Hong Kong, actually in the beginning, Carrie Lam had to do a lot of convincing for some of the pro-Beijing lawmakers. They weren't really super enthused about it, but she got them on board. The business elites were not a fan of this bill.
No, there was a big lawyers' protest. What's different about this protest versus the umbrella movement in 2014 is just how much of Hong Kong society has turned out against this. So it's pretty unpopular. Big Kev Sexy Man donated $50. What are the Hong Kong people's view of the U.S. in terms of trade war and U.S. actions in the South China Sea? I haven't spoken to anyone this trip about the South China Sea, so I'm not sure. As for the trade war, I think in general they're just happy about any kind of pressure on the Chinese Communist Party and anyone paying attention to what's happening in Hong Kong.
Of course, also they don't want the trade war to affect their economy. So there's,
Yeah.
uh,
Go for it, Shelley.
Cyan Guria donated 100 rupees and says, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Another one from LaserBot 678.
This time they have a question. Thank you. Hope Trump is keeping up the pressure on the Chinese Communist Party in China. As a U.S. citizen born in Hong Kong, thank you for doing this for the people in Hong Kong.
You're welcome. That's great.
Funny story. When I talked to there's an older Hong Kong man who stopped me, and once he found out I was American, he was like, "Hey, can you tell your president to support the people of Hong Kong?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Shelley's got a direct line.
I'll get right on that.
Big red phone that she picks up. Eugene Kim donated $20. Thank you. Hello. I hope the subs.
This supports the channel.
Oh.
This is a Korean speaking with very anti-Chinese views.
Some may say racist, as Koreans are known for it. Not my words there.
This is a complete 180. Could you name something the CCP has done well for Hong Kong? Oh, putting you on the spot here. Something that the CCP has done well for Hong Kong.
Well, I can't think of anything.
I mean, look at all the beautiful red flags they've put up.
That's true. There's substantially more. Isn't the Hong Kong flag red?
Yes, but there's the other one now.
Yeah. So there you go. Lots of flags. They did good things for flag makers.
Actually, I will answer this question in a serious way. What the Chinese central government is trying to do for Hong Kong is to integrate it more into the economy of mainland China. And the economy of mainland China has grown so much, and they've done things like make it easier to go back and forth from the mainland to Hong Kong through high-speed rail. They've created the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, which encourages more travel and economic development. And these are good things if you're only focused on making money. But obviously I can't stop my answer there, because the whole idea of this economic integration is that once the economies are so intertwined between mainland and Hong Kong, it would be impossible for Hong Kong to resist other types of pressure, including political pressure from mainland China. And I think that after the last 22 years of one country, two systems, the central government thought that with all the economic development and integration, the people of Hong Kong would be grateful for all of this mainland economic support. And I think, quite frankly, the People's Republic of China government was surprised that so many people were upset over this extradition bill, including the elites and the wealthy of Hong Kong, who see this as a threat. And so that's kind of my long answer to your question about what has the CCP done that's good for Hong Kong.
I mean, I think what's going to happen now is that basically they're going to try to do what they did in Xinjiang and Tibet, which is bring more mainland Chinese people over to Hong Kong and kind of change the makeup of the population, so that the population will become more overall docile or supportive of the CCP.
They're encouraging people to speak Mandarin and lose Cantonese. It's the same thing they did in Tibet. It's just a gradual erosion of what originally was Hong Kong culture.
Melanie Chan.
Okay.
Melanie Chan donated $50. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
200 rupees from Martha Muthal.
Again, this time he's got a question. How long has the organ harvesting industry enjoyed the CCP's blessings?
Well, so the tribunal said there was clear evidence that it's been going on for at least 20 years, but there are stories of this going on even in the 90s.
Well, 20 years ago it was the 90s, but...
Really?
Yes, Chris, yes. But there...
Whoa! Do you realize how long ago the 90s were?
No.
Okay, so anyway, the point was that, there are stories of organ harvesting kind of originating in Xinjiang in the early 90s. So, before the technology was really good enough for them to do more than kind of shoot somebody in the heart and try to take some of their organs, you know?
Not the heart organ at that point.
Yeah, but now the technology is really, really advanced, and one of the most recent things that's kind of scary is that the anti-rejection drugs are so good now that they're able to use many more organs from the patients.
I mean, there are stories of people having their organs harvesting while they're still alive. So.
And that's basically what kills them, is having your
Well, sorry, I should say conscience.
Conscious, yeah.
Yeah. Like not anesthetized.
I think you're getting tired.
I'm getting tired.
All right, so Robert Moya donated $5 and said, any news on Cynthia Liu and her brother being held in China? They're American citizens who have had their passports taken away by the CCP. Stay safe. Yeah, so there's this thing that the Chinese Communist Party is doing now where they are kind of preventing people from leaving. And this is the case where these two kids, like she's in her 20s, her brother's, I think, early 20s, or he's in college, and they are the children of a wanted fugitive in China, who's a guy who was a rich guy who did a lot of fraud, and he escaped. He's estranged from his family, but they went back to China to go to their grandmother's funeral, and then the Chinese authorities decided that the best way to get their father to come back to China and face his crimes is to basically hold his children hostage.
That's the kind of regime the Chinese Communist Party is.
And like the U.S. government can do almost nothing about it. They're just kind of monitoring the situation, but they're stuck there for now. You know,
Yeah.
even
Another
though,
reason why we're not going to mainland China.
I mean,
anytime soon.
the brother was born in the U.S. too. I mean, they
Yeah.
all have American
They're
passports, but
U.S.
you know.
citizens. We have this one.
Okay, so we got that one.
Yeah, we're at the 77.
Sean Hong donated $19.99. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Birdsall donated $77.77 and
That's
said
very lucky. Thank you.
the highest bid is for China Uncensored.
Well, congratulations. You own China Uncensored. Wait, that's not how this works, right?
What if it's like too high? Does that, it's like the price is right?
I don't think there's a maximum limit on contributions to
okay.
China
Yeah.
Uncensored. Just to be clear on that, there's no maximum.
Stephen McDonald donated $5 and said, loves your vids. I notice a lot of Hong Kongers have an English accent. Is it true that for a majority of the English speakers there? No, most English speakers in Hong Kong have a Hong Kong English accent.
It's like a weird combination. It's like a very specific Englishy kind of accent. Yeah, because it was a British colony.
It was a British colony, but I think, there are Hong Kongers who have lived in the UK and stuff like that.
But I would say this is like one of the most friendly cities in Asia for English speakers. Like still most of the signs have English. Most people kind of speak at least a little English, so it's pretty easy to get around. Visit Hong Kong.
The funny thing about that is that because the main language is Cantonese, and then there's a lot of resentment about the mainland Chinese influence. Sometimes if someone doesn't speak English, we'll try to use Mandarin, but every time, well, at least speaking for myself, every time I use Mandarin to communicate, I feel this kind of twinge of guilt because there's is that really the language that people here want to be communicating in? But a lot of Cantonese speakers do speak, some Mandarin. I think it's much easier to learn than English.
Well, I think they also have to in schools now.
Yeah, it's part of the
Patriotic
erosion.
education.
But I think, there is some sensitivity around that, so we try to speak English first and then Mandarin.
People have different feelings about it. Someone told me not to say 谢谢, like thank you in Mandarin to people. So I've been practicing saying "mgoi." Hey, Devin Hamby donated $20. Mgoi. Why do you think the far left thinks censorship on YouTube against the conservatives is okay, but
I am a little confused about the question, to be honest. But find the censorship, should that be not okay, maybe?
I don't know. Well, I think, you see a lot of people reacting pretty negatively against the power these kind of social media conglomerates have over people's lives. So I think it's kind of a bipartisan issue, really.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there are some people who think that it's okay for YouTube to censor some of the more, I guess you call them extreme content. But the problem is that anytime you have a group of, powerful, wealthy men controlling the narrative, as is the case with YouTube and any other big tech company.
The YouTube CEO is a woman, just so.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's true. But Google and Alphabet are.
Yes.
But look, the point is that you've got these wealthy, powerful elites who do feel like they can control the narrative, and today they're censoring, conspiracy videos or something, or channels that maybe people don't think are that important, but down the line they actually start tightening the control. And so what we've seen, of course, for us is not that our videos are being censored, but simply that we are subject to demonetization, where our videos get limited or no ads. And it's based on these algorithms that I'm not sure even YouTube understands, but they're going through them with some sort of artificial intelligence bots and, determining that the videos are too controversial for advertisers. And that's a little bit different than the other types of censorship, but ultimately it's the same kind of thing. We've got this big, public platform, and some voices, everyone is equal, but some people are more equal than others.
Well, I think also, CNN would not get demonetized for what they are doing about the,
Nope.
The Hong Kong protests, and we're not really saying anything different or more controversial than what they are.
We are saying it better, though, and more entertaining.
Yeah, wait till we publish the episode with about the Sunday night protests. You guys are gonna love that one. I have to say that I cannot see Fareed Zakaria doing what Chris did. That is true, but
What did I do?
in that Sunday episode,
Oh, okay.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You'll see. It's good.
But it's not like what we're actually not saying anything controversial or.
Censorship is a slippery slope.
So I mean, we're the little guys, so it's easier for us to get picked on, and we don't have the reach of like some of the more popular YouTubers or these bigger media channels. So we don't have a way to talk to YouTube about this stuff. We used to have like a contact at YouTube that we could ask about demonetization and stuff like that, but
They
we
got rid of it.
Yeah, we don't have that anymore. So as to why things get demonetized, the answer is we have no idea a lot of the time. Yeah, we can make some guesses, but.
It's become very similar to the way censorship is done in mainland China, where there's just vague rules, and so you're just sort of incentivized to self-censor, which is terrible. We're not going to do that, though, because we've got awesome support from fans like you guys who are donating on this and Patreon, so that's why we're going to keep doing it.
Moha Stellas donated $20 and said, I would like to add to Chris's answer to the railway and bridge. These are severely overpaid with lots of corruption and paid by Hong Kong tax money in a large part. So it's really not something that China is doing for us.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like, there's lots of little details like that we don't even know because we're not like Hong Kong experts necessarily. So Tyler Brennan Stoll donated $10. Thank you. As an American with a partner from Hong Kong, what do you think of the strong sentiment Hong Kongers have for our fearless orange leader? I think I've still seen like a variety of opinions.
I definitely see a variety of opinions, but I think it is, I think even before Trump was elected that there was like a certain amount of like Chinese support for him. Like China, yeah.
That is kind of true, like in mainland China as well as
I think
Hong
Kong. And I think I've also seen is that if the most important thing for you is the threat that the Chinese Communist Party poses, that like people see Trump as doing better than any recent American president in that sense. So yeah, you do see like a lot of more support for him among people who are really worried about what's going on with the Chinese Communist Party. Oh, okay. Not okay. Okay, I hope we answered your question.
Thanks.
Thanks, Devin. Okay, so $10 from Kimchi Man. Thank you.
Ooh, I want some kimchi now.
Thank you, China Uncensored. You guys are the savior of democracy.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I mean,
No, don't push that away. Feel it, Shelley.
I can't accept compliments.
Now I'm just thinking about kimchi. We really should have lunch today.
We need to have lunch. We have not been sleeping regularly or eating 3 meals a day. Certainly not. Fly. I hope it wasn't our ladybug friend.
No, you've got the ladybug now on your.
Okay,
shirt.
So let's carry on.
It's okay. It's okay.
I'm allergic to ladybugs.
I'm so sorry I cannot read Korean.
Korean name. Thank you.
Donated 50,000 won and said, Kim Jong-min introduced your channel.
Dr. Kim. So, there's a YouTuber, Dr. Kim Jong-min, who had reached out to us to do a collaboration. I think he'd featured some of our stuff on his channel. And so, Well,
because of that interest, we now have kind of revived our Korean channel.
Yeah, and there's actually a fan of the show who decided to sort of revive the Korean channels, doing about one video a week. and is trying to raise money from Korean supporters to do more than that a week. And I think it's really reaching the Korean audience. The part about Dr. Kim is that he's been talking about China and China's influence in South Korea for a long time. And so he had reached out to us to do a collaboration. And so we started to work on it in June. And then something happened where we had to leave the country
Guys,
with like 12 hours
now?
notice.
Where are we? I'm so confused.
Yeah, so it's on hold, but yes, we want to do that.
And he also says, I want to speak more, but YouTube blocked my opinion of Hong Kong incorporation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that your question didn't get through, but we appreciate the support, and we are looking to go to South Korea soon. Phil, with 2 L's, donated 1889 Australian. Is that a significant number? Like, did something happen?
1889?
Yes.
No, but it's heaps nice, mate. Thank you.
Matt spent some time in Australia.
I hope you can't rescind your contribution. I'm sorry about that.
Suddenly we have no subscribers to the show anymore.
The Australians are fining us.
Crikey!
Stop it!
It's getting worse. It's getting worse, Matt.
I really should just get some sleep.
Some kimchi.
Some kimchi.
So Phil says Hong Kong must be free. Team Black Sheep also has done amazing coverage. Never forget the crimes of the CCP. Corporate censorship and media control will kill democracy.
I've never heard of Black Sheep, so we'll check them out. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things about being here is that we haven't really, a lot of journalists are doing really amazing work here, and we really haven't had time to look at any of it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Nixie donated 10 Canadian and asked, what about 5G? How can Western powers advance their networks if they don't use Chinese technology? And Western R&D is not as ahead potentially.
Well, you know, China, made in Chinese products have such a stellar reputation. It's going to be difficult for anyone to rival that. No, I think as more of like Huawei or ZTE 5G comes out, people are going to realize it's carries loads of national security risks and also is probably not very high quality. So, you know, I know the U.S. is making a big push to kind of catch up in the 5G race, and that has actually made a lot of progress in that. I think we did an episode about that for American
The
Covered.
U.S. government has been pushing for it starting at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
They have, but the U.S., it's true that there is no U.S. company that is like a 5G like kind of equipment provider.
Because it's like an end-to-end thing, because
Yeah.
you need to have like the back end and the servers and the networks and the technology and the things that connect it with the phone. So there's like many different steps, and Huawei is like the main company that's got the entire end-to-end technology, and other foreign companies or American companies have like different pieces of it.
Ericsson
Ericsson, yes.
does the same thing, but they're basically the two main companies now. There used to be Nortel, which I think it was a Canadian company.
Umbrella.
It's in my purse.
Okay.
But okay.
I just realized.
we're losing everything.
Okay, so Nortel used to do this too, and they kind of went out of business partly because of IP theft from China.
Oh, okay,
Remember that story?
Oh yeah.
But basically, I think it won't be that difficult for, especially the U.S., but other Western powers to come up with a 5G alternative to, questionable Chinese companies.
By Ericsson. Yeah.
Channing Vanderbilt donated $20. Thank you. How do people feel
about you all being there? Who's people? I guess.
Yeah. How do you feel? Tell us how you feel. In general, people have been thankful that.
I think people have been supportive.
In general, the people of Hong Kong that we've met at the protests are very excited to have any Western media here looking at the issue.
But what about the people who work in the People's Liberation Army garrison right back
the
there?
NPCs? I don't know. But like there was, I forget what news he was with, but the one reporter who was there on Wednesday when like police were firing tear gas and like people like gave him an umbrella and put a helmet on his head. So there's a lot of love for.
They were trying to protect the journalists, which was,
Yeah.
and also, I mean, it's pretty clear to people who've been protesting for these few years and since Umbrella that when Western media are there, when foreign journalists are there, the police in Hong Kong don't get as violent.
Yeah, after Wednesday when it was very violent and police were actually targeting the journalists that were there, swearing at them and purposely pepper spraying them, that got a lot more media to come, and now police have been much more polite.
Okay, so
Let's do 2 more, I think, and then wrap
Okay,
it up.
yeah.
well, let's just try to get through all these. J.C. Denton donated $20 and said, "Love and support to Hong Kong and China Uncensored from America, where we love freedom." Bald eagle emoji.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best case scenario outcome of the Hong Kong protests? Any plausibility of a ripple effect across China?
It's possible, but like we've heard that they've been very successful at censoring this story inside mainland China. Like we've heard stories of people like on WeChat being like, "Oh, what's like seeing a picture of the 2 million people strong protest? Like, oh, where is this? What's happening?"
Yeah, and also, I mean, the main narrative that's going around on Chinese social media is that this is like some kind of CIA-backed plot to destabilize China. But I did meet somebody yesterday who was from Hangzhou. He had come from mainland China to Hong Kong to witness the protests, and I asked him if people knew about this in China, and he was like, "No, nobody knows about it." He's one of those people that likes to like what they call jump the wall. Like get a VPN so he can see what's going on in the rest of the internet. So he's like a very politically aware guy. But he said, his family was kind of afraid about him coming over. He had been asked to tea before by the Chinese police, which means they were monitoring him. But he said that, most people in China who aren't making the effort to get across the firewall, they don't know what's happening here at all.
Yeah. All right, I think we do need to start. We need to wrap this up because we have the fan meetup coming at 7, and
we have 2 more episodes, to work on.
do, and we are supposed to eat at some point. Okay, so last one,
Harsectinol, $50. Thank you, and asks, please have a beer on me for all the hard work you do. Also, please talk about the most recent economic numbers out of China. Shelley mentioned, are we looking at a recession? If so, what the CCP will do? They will, try to quantitative ease their money. They'll try to inflate, is what will happen.
I mean, that generally works out really well, like for countries like Venezuela, the quantitative easing that they did. Although, to be fair, quantitative easing that happened in the U.S. after 2008 had a minimal impact on the U.S. economy and not really big inflation. So
that's also because people didn't really know what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually the Chinese central bank could introduce more fiat currency into the economy gradually and without making a big deal out of it, and I think it would have a very minimal impact in the short run. But the problem is that the short run sometimes becomes the medium run, and then it becomes the long term, and that kind of economic threat is one of those straws that could break the panda's back.
All right, so thank you for tuning in today. We'll get back to you with more updates from Hong Kong as we hear about them. Definitely Thursday is a big day to look forward to because that's when the deadline for the Hong Kong government to give response to the protesters is, and if the people aren't satisfied, then it'll be a very interesting weekend. So stay tuned, check out all of our social media, the China Uncensored Facebook page, obviously the YouTube page, the China Uncensored Twitter account. Shelley, what's your Twitter account again?
It's at SHELZHANG.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us on the live chat. Thank you for everyone who's donated. I don't know if we got to everyone who donated, but it's really appreciated. And we'll check back in as soon as we can. Oh, and China Uncensored on Instagram. Talk to you soon. Take us off, Matt. And goodbye.